Story 1. Drinking from a bright pink water bottle. I was an active kid involved in many sports. My nice water bottles often got lost. When I was about 15, I went to buy another nice water bottle and noticed the bright pink one was $1 cheaper, so I purchased it. Many people said it was feminine to drink from a bright pink bottle, but I liked it. It was easy to identify, I didn't lose it in the dark, and none of my teammates accidentally took it. I brought that bottle with me to college, and it broke in my mid-20s. Story 2. I'm a woman, but a guy I used to work with once said, "I know this is a bit unusual, but I'm really hungry." So apparently, hunger is unusual now. Story 3. I am a woman originally from Brazil. My ex used to love ordering strawberry milk, which is cold milk blended with frozen strawberries at restaurants with his meals. However, his family made him feel self-conscious about that big glass of pink drink, which was delicious, and he started ordering beer instead. Story 4. Someone called me a simp because I did something nice for my wife. I mean, she's my wife. Of course, I'm going to support her. Story 5. I don't have an issue dating women who are taller than me. I'm not short, so it doesn't come up that often, but still. Story 6. The color yellow was my favorite color growing up. However, every time I shared that with anyone, regardless of age or gender, they laughed at me and told me it was a color for girls. Story 7. Doing laundry. I work as a caregiver, and an elderly man would not ask male caregivers to put his laundry on because he thinks it is a woman's job. Story 8. Being a homemaker allows me to take my time each day, prepare good food, work on my art, go fishing, hike, grow things in my garden, and avoid corporate nonsense. Story 9. I saw a screenshot of a TikTok today that said, "Fun is a feminine concept. Masculinity is about being productive and getting things done." This made me wonder, is it unacceptable for men to have fun? Story 10. My boyfriend was mocked for wearing a pimple patch, as if skincare is only for women. It's ridiculous. Story 11. I am a gay man who used to be a daycare teacher for children aged 10 months to 1.5 years old. I loved my job and cherished my time with the children. Diapers, bottles, naps, and playtime brought me immense joy. One day, after about a year at the daycare, a parent approached me and asked, "Is your girlfriend okay with you doing this kind of work?" I was shocked. She had even attended one of my drag shows before. Story 12. Andrew Tate stated that it is unusual to enjoy sexual relationships with women. Story 13. I was made fun of in high school for wanting to learn how to cook. I really wanted to take home economics. My dreams of becoming a Michelin star chef were dashed when my classmates said it was wrong. To make matters worse, my principal said it was inappropriate for a man to learn how to cook, claiming that it was a woman's job. To be honest, I couldn't understand what was wrong with being in a classroom with 30 girls to partner with. Story 14. I was at an open mic show when the comedian noticed I had crossed my legs. She suggested that I did it because I was ashamed of my masculinity and couldn't satisfy my wife. I responded, "Okay," and she replied, "Lighten up, it's just a joke." Then she told me to uncross my legs, but I didn't, and we just stared at each other for a minute before she returned to her performance. I was there to watch. I am fine with crowd work. I am not easily embarrassed, and I wasn't offended. I was just confused. Is crossing your legs perceived as a sign of impotence or being gay? Is that the punchline or a curious observation? I'm still waiting for the funny part. Story 15. I was enjoying the cafeteria's soup when a coworker stopped by to ask what I was doing. He proceeded to tell me that only women eat soup and that real men eat solid food. I laughed it off, but every time I sat down to eat, he would remind me when they were serving soup or let others know I was a soup drinker. The highlight of my time there was when I saw him eating soup, and when I called him out on it, he became quite defensive, claiming that the exception was that there were pieces of meat in his soup. Story 16. I fold my toilet paper and reach around to wipe. I wash in the shower. I wear nice collared shirts. I bake. Story 17. Reading was considered feminine and made me feel gay, according to some of the people I went to high school with. Story 18. I genuinely enjoy Chappelle Roan's music as well as Sabrina Carpenter's. I've been told it makes me seem less masculine, but I don't care about those opinions. My Kink is Karma is a great song, and I stand by that. Story 19. I have a muddy yard. My house, which I rent, is entirely carpeted. One of my friends could not believe that I put dog shoes on my dog before sending him outside because I didn't want to constantly clean my carpets. Sorry, but I'm revoking your man card for this, he said. We don't hang out anymore. Story 20. Enjoying red wine, appreciating art, writing and enjoying poetry, going to the theater, disliking mixed martial arts fighting, taking care of personal hygiene, being present in your children's lives, valuing family over career. Story 21. When I was in high school, I took driver's education with an older instructor who often spoke about past students. He mentioned one student who would never use his turn signal. When confronted about it, the student kept insisting that turn signals were for others. Eventually, the instructor decided to speak with the student's father. After a lesson, he went to the student's house, knocked on the door, and talked to the father. He explained what the student had said and informed the father that if the student could not use his turn signals, he would have to fail him. The father's response was, "That's right. Turn signals are for others." Story 22. The way I fold my underwear is by folding them in thirds and rolling them like a burrito. As an engineer, I find this method space efficient. Story 23. My brother was teased for applying a clear coat of nail polish. He did it to stop biting his nails, but his friends kept calling him gay. Story 24. I am a woman, but I was told not to gift my ex-boyfriend things I hand-knit because wearing them would make him look unmasculine. The item in question was a plain dark blue sweater. Story 25. When my wife and I were engaged, we had our wedding rings custom-made and incorporated each other's birthstones as a way to always have the other close. Since she was born in February, her stone is amethyst. The final design has 11 amethysts around my band, and he mentioned that it might look too feminine. The year after we got married, we bought kayaks. She chose green and I chose purple, although it ended up being closer to pink. Neither kayak was a solid color. They had a swirled design. During our second or third time out kayaking, someone joked with me that I was in the wrong boat. Jokes on both of them because my favorite color is purple, and I couldn't be happier with either purchase. Story 26. The funny thing is, men who think that doing something makes them look weak actually make themselves look weak by caring about what other people think of them. Story 27. My father was furious when my grandmother taught my brother to knit. She didn't care and taught him to sew a few years later as well, but bought him tractor pattern fabric because he liked tractors and my father would see it as less feminine. Story 28. Pretty much just living. Reading, enjoying movies, and watching cartoons. Wearing glasses. Welcome to being bullied. Story 29. I've read that having a birthday in summer is considered non-masculine by a small number of women. Of course, here in Australia, summer is from November to February. Story 30. A few years ago, my husband and I bought bidet attachments for our toilets, and we love them. He was telling my father-in-law about how great they are, and my father-in-law asked, "What are you, gay?" I am not sure why he thinks having a clean backside makes us gay, but I will continue to sing the praises of bidets. They are amazing. Story 31. I used to sell and deliver car parts. Mechanics were always taking my pens until I started only carrying pink or purple ones. Now there are no more pen thefts. Story 32. A man in a car had to brake since I had the right of way. He yelled at me for making him brake, using a derogatory term. Imagine being so hypermasculine that you feel the need to run over people in traffic. Story 33. Seeking medical advice when I feel something is wrong. Toughen up. In my day, a man would walk it off, not go crying to the doctor because he got a small injury. Story 34. Singing. My child is at the age where he thinks that icky girls don't do girl stuff, and he told me that at school they apparently think it's girly to sing. I hadn't heard that one before and quickly pointed out that some of the most successful singers in the world are men. Story 35. Liking women. Seriously, I've been told that if I appreciate nerdy girls, it makes me less masculine. The situation was not improved when I stated that I also enjoy tying them up, consensually of course. So yes, it seems to be considered unusual to be into rope play and girls like Velma. Story 36. I was told by a few male coworkers and friends that buying menstruation pads or tampons for my partner when I am shopping is not masculine. If my girlfriend asks me to buy a pack of them on my way home and gives me a description of what to buy, I see it simply as another item on my shopping list. However, some people really believe that men should not buy such things. Story 37. My parents tried telling me that wearing shorts would make me look feminine. You might as well wear a mini skirt showing your legs like that. Men wear jeans or slacks, period. Story 38. I once ran out of deodorant and used my ex-wife's roll-on. She accused me of being gay because I liked using women's products. It was a fragrance-free deodorant. It's all the same. Even if it had a feminine scent, I'd rather smell of flowers than sweat. Story 39. Having intuition. No, really. That's what my cousin told me when I was little. It made me ashamed to have intuitive thoughts for a long time. Story 40. Can I comment on something a guy said to me even though I'm a woman? I used to have a friend who drove for a food delivery service, and we had this conversation once. So I guess eating kale is too feminine. Story 41. Enjoying candles. If I want my house to smell a certain way that I enjoy, then I will light a cinnamon candle. Story 42. I enjoy musicals because many people assume that both the audience and performers are primarily made up of gay individuals, which is mostly accurate. However, few recognize that writing a musical is incredibly challenging. Actors often have only 4 weeks to memorize their entire roles, and they must maintain physical fitness. A good musical combines all 3 performing arts, making it the pinnacle of art in my opinion. Story 43. Being vegan. The word on the street is that I'm becoming feminine because of all the soy. It has been 8 years, and I am still waiting for my breasts to develop, so I don't have to trouble my wife. Story 44. I was a teenager dating a woman 6 years older than me. My father asked if I was gay because I owned a hairdryer and had very long hair. Story 45. Being a professional athlete. I was with a group of fathers discussing their high school football careers, and one mentioned he played Division III football. I ran Division I track and then competed professionally in mid-distance and long-distance events. When they asked if I played any sports, I replied, yes, I ran track for XYZ University and then joined a professional club team for a while. I was criticized because distance running is often seen as a women's sport. I could easily outsprint these men while running backwards. At least I didn't suffer brain injuries playing football in high school. I focused on my strengths. Story 46. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. Story 47. I am sure there are many things. My favorite? I sit down when I urinate if the bathroom is clean, out of respect. Story 48. I used to read many romance novels in school and people often commented on it. I eventually stopped reading them, but not because I became insecure. I simply read enough of the genre and moved on to my next interest. Story 49. Taking the time to think before answering. I knew we were not compatible. I enjoy good conversations. Story 50. I used to work in an office where the parking lot was several blocks from the building. One day it was pouring rain. As I grabbed my umbrella, a coworker told me that using an umbrella was not masculine. I replied that he could have fun getting soaking wet like a real man. Story 51. Hurrying in the crosswalk, rather than walking slowly and unnecessarily showing off to the waiting cars, seemed inappropriate. I also had someone comment that being flexible made me look effeminate. Maybe they were just envious that I didn't look overly large. Story 52. Sitting next to a person at the movie theater, I have had a few friends insist on having an empty seat between us. Story 53. Growing up in the 1990s, I faced many limitations. I couldn't eat hot dogs or popsicles, go anywhere near pink or purple, which I have reclaimed as my favorite color, or use any shampoo or body wash that didn't come in a bottle with a stamped steel pattern or that didn't smell like gasoline. The worst aspect was drinking, I loved beverages like pina coladas and monkey's lunches, the so-called girly drinks. However, you could only drink hard liquor or beer without someone labeling you as gay. Story 54. I was told that playing house with my daughter and her stuffed animals was inappropriate. It's like, dude, my kid and I are having a blast. I was also told that it's not manly to get my wife food at a barbecue or event. Apparently, I needed to be more assertive and tell my wife to do it. Sorry you don't love your wife, man. Story 55. I'm trying to understand why so many comments focus on being gay. The question was about masculinity. Aren't there any masculine gay men? Does one automatically lose their masculinity if they are gay? Story 56. I was criticized for referring to people by their labels. I respect individuals regardless of their sexual identity, and I am comfortable with my masculinity. Story 57. Every time I get my nails done, one of my coworkers always makes a big deal about how I'm rude for wearing nail polish. Story 58. I was told a particular brand of soap I liked was for women. It was nonsense. There was nothing about the soap, its packaging, or its placement in the store to indicate this. Story 59. A number of shows, including The Brady Bunch, were off limits when I was a child. My father feared I would become gay by watching them. Story 60. We used to have an extremely closeted individual at work, and just about everything he did or didn't do was labeled as inappropriate or overly feminine. Reading, inappropriate. Putting your tools away when you're done, inappropriate. Trying to teach the new employee the proper way to do things, inappropriate, and you were labeled as overly dependent. Fix something after he couldn't figure it out, weak for needing assistance. Eating a meatball sub for lunch, inappropriate and wishing for something absurd. Long hair, very inappropriate. Owning a cat and not being female, inappropriate. He was insufferable and should have been dismissed many times. Story 61. Having long hair down to the waist. A girl once told me that women don't like it if their partner has longer or more beautiful hair than they do. Story 62. Using exclamation marks or emojis. I am referring to standard smile or laugh emojis, not more frivolous or obscure ones. Story 63. I am a trans male, and someone accused me of faking my identity as a trans man because of my purple Golden Girls shirt. Story 64. I remember one time in high school, back in the 1990s, overhearing two boys from the year below complaining about the moon being out during the daytime. In their view, this was so strange. Story 65. I have a four-way tie. Only one of these things was said by a man, drinking cherry cola, saying I'm tipsy instead of I'm buzzed, not cheating on my college girlfriend, not sleeping with my college girlfriend while she was drunk and unable to consent. Story 66. One thing I never understood is why all men's cologne smells like rubbing alcohol or smoke. Why is smelling good considered feminine? I'll take my hibiscus cologne, please. Story 67. Sorry, it's not my story but my husband's. Our dog was young, and we had put him in a collar that belonged to his sister. It was a black collar with a small pink diamante bone. A man at the pub who knew my husband was married saw the collar and asked him about it when he came out. When my husband questioned his logic, he insisted that if my husband dressed the dog in gay clothes, it would make the dog gay. Story 68. According to my mom, I had to start drinking coffee and be interested in sports and cars in order to be a man. First, coffee tastes unpleasant compared to energy drinks. Second, real-life sports can be boring compared to esports, which are actually fun and stimulating to watch. Third, why care about something you'll never be able to afford, like a car? It was true when I was 15, and it's still true now at the age of 40. Story 69. Take off your t-shirt by crossing your arms and pulling it from the hem. Story 70. I have a few that my boyfriend told me were considered gay. Being on top is considered gay, apparently. An earring on the right side is not, but one on the left side is. I can't remember others, but there were more. Story 71. It seems that going down on a girl may lead to concerns about losing dignity and respect. However, I thought it would have the opposite effect. Story 72. Having long hair, I live in a rural area of the United States where traditional crew cuts are considered the only socially acceptable haircut for a man. I have received many comments over the years that would now be described as transphobic. Story 73. A friend insisted that if a woman earned more than a man, then he did not qualify as a man. That mindset is outdated, and I no longer consider that person a friend. Story 74. Cooking and baking. No, I am not kidding. I love to cook big, elaborate meals for my friends and family. One of them asked if I was gay for doing this. Story 75. My dad once told me that he was worried about me becoming a housemate in a household with a significant LGBTQ community, concerned that it might influence me and my younger brother. He is from Korea and was in his 50s at the time. While his views were very offensive, he likely had never encountered anything like this before. Took me by surprise, though. Story 76. We had a teacher in school who once came into the locker room during gym class and yelled, "What's taking so long? Are you sitting down while you urinate?" I never knew it was a bad thing to sit down while urinating. Story 77. Not having a sexual relationship with a woman who has a history of sexually transmitted diseases. Either that or embracing my lifelong male friends. Story 78. Wearing colors like pink and lilac, I worked in a conservative and traditional bank. I committed further and purchased a purple suit for the large event where all the corporate executives were present. Story 79. My partner's father called them a homophobic slur and permanently neglected them because they declared they did not want to play sports. They wanted to become an astronaut. My partner was 5 years old at the time. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.